All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Fearcast. This is the podcast dedicated to OCD and anxiety spectrum disorders and getting your life back. I'm your host, Kevin Foss, and I'm a licensed therapist specializing in OCD and anxiety disorders. Thank you all so much for joining me for today's episode. It's an episode where I'm a little thrown off today. I'm trying something new. I'm experimenting with a different camera system, which means I'm experimenting with different ways to get audio into this system and trusting that all the recording software is going to work and that it's not going to completely fail on me. And I'm not wearing headphones for this, so it doesn't look super weird, but I don't think anybody really cares if I'm recording this. So by the way, I should say, if for those of you who don't know, I'm also uploading our video to this to YouTube. So if you want to see what the podcast look like, you can go over to YouTube, check it out over there. If you search Fearcast Podcast at YouTube, you'll be able to find it. So if you found it, this is what I look like, and this is what my office looks like. So there you go. But it's weird. It's doing something different. I've been doing the podcast one way for so long, so to change something up feels very weird. Now, actually, no, before I get into that, let me keep talking at the top of this. So this is a question and answer based podcast. If you have questions about OCD and anxiety disorders, go over to fearcastpodcast.com, send me a message over there. I will read it, consider it, and likely put it up on a future episode, which is what's happening today. If you want to cut to the top of the line, cut to the top of the list, you can go over to Instagram. I'm Fearcast Podcast over there, and you can send me an audio question. You can also send me an audio question over at Fearcast Podcast. I think Instagram is kind of the fastest way. So that's the best way to cut the line, get your question answered as soon as possible at the next recording. But today I'm going to be answering two quick questions from listeners. But back to it, it's really weird. But so this is the reality of doing something different. So sometimes I talk with clients about this, where it feels weird to do something that you haven't done before. Now, I'm sure I could be fancier with what that sounds like, but the reality is just kind of feels weird. Like, if you haven't done something in a really long time and you want to get back to it because anxiety or the obsession or whatever it is trying to pull you away from it, just two things. One, it feels scary to do it. It feels scary to convince yourself to do this thing that your brain has told you is bad for so long. And then two, just the fact that you haven't done it in a long time can feel weird. And that's, to a certain degree, it's kind of what this feels like, where it feels like I'm doing something wrong. I'm like betraying myself for not having my headphones in while I record this so I can monitor how it sounds. So if I'm not sounding like this or sounding really far away, but I can be a little bit of a perfectionist about this. A little bit. But anyways, so bear with my own anxiety. But the reality is, here's the reality. I've tested this. I practiced with this. I made sure all the systems worked. I tried it in a couple of different ways, and I got it to work. Then inevitably, I sit down this morning to try to record, and the camera's not working. I'm like, I have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to get it to work. But I got it to work, and there's nothing that I can do. I got to jump in. I got to try it. And that's the reality with some of these things. You can prep and plan and consider and plot all you want. Eventually, you have to pull the Band-Aid off and do it. There's no getting over that reality. It's kind of like when I talk with folks about, like fear of flying in airplanes, or you can say, public speaking, or, I suppose any exposure can fit into this. But it's like with airplanes, you can watch as many videos as you want. You can learn about every little sound and beep and procedure and policy that an airline has, so you can prep for it and know what's going on. You can watch all the plane crash videos you want to deal with the fear of crashing or the thought about crashing. You read all the scripts you want. Eventually, you have to get on the plane. There's nothing that's going to stop that. You have to eventually do it. And when you do it, it gets easier. The reality is about this process, I know it will get easier. It's just for right now, for the first time I'm doing it, it's hard. But that's the reality. And I can do hard things. Thank you, Kimberly Quinlan. We can do hard things. I can do them. You can do them. We can all do them. And it's just a matter of practicing and getting it into our head that we can. All right. So why don't I get off to these questions? So I got two questions I'm going to answer real quick. So the first one comes from Rick. So Rick says, my main topic at the moment is POCD, so pedophile OCD, pedophile-related OCD. And it all started because of a nightmare involving my daughter. I don't know what to do to overcome this because I should be the person who would protect her from everything. But now, is that possible when I have these thoughts? How can I go about my daily life normally? I've been through several phases, the phase where I panic attacks and the phase where I've cried several times a day. And right now I'm on medication and it scares me because I don't feel anything with these thoughts. And it even seems like I'm thinking them on purpose. I can't tell if I am this or not. It seems like from one moment to the next, I no longer know my identity. Rick, dude, I'm so sorry. These POCD can be such a killer. Obviously, every subtype of OCD can have their own, does have their own pain and struggle, and all these obsessions are unique. There's something about POCD and some of the other taboo subjects, but POCD in particular, that has this exceptionally qualitatively different weight to it. And again, I say that not to undermine anybody, but you know what? I'm just going to leave it out there. It's out there. Anyways, everybody's different. But Rick, I'm sorry you're struggling with this. Okay, so a couple of things within this. So number one, we need to remember OCD attaches itself to the thing that you value the most. You said so many times in that, man, I should be the person who would protect. I should be this person who, shouldn't have these thoughts, right? But you have them. And I'm willing to bet you have them because you care so much about your daughter, because you don't want any harm to come to her. So anxiety attaches itself to the worst possible thing and says, what if this worst possible thing happens and you, the person who is to protect her from any bad thing, that you're the person who did it? Okay. We can remember it comes for us in the worst possible way, and anxiety attaches itself to that which we value the most. So we can use that as a way of saying, you know what, this to a certain degree is confirmation. I love my daughter and I want good things for her. So right now, though, I have these thoughts because remember we've talked about trusting your compulsive conclusion. You're fighting for the reality or fighting for the idea that you're never going to do anything harmful to your daughter, right? Okay. Let's trust that you are that person. Let's trust that you wouldn't do anything by letting go of further effort to try to confirm this, further effort to try to fight against this, or to prove that you're not, or prove that you're something else. We're going to act as if you already are. Now, if you're in that state, what are you going to do differently? What would you do differently? If you already knew you weren't going to harm your daughter in any sort of way, would you spend time thinking about this? Probably not. You'd probably move on your day. You'd probably go, ugh, that dumb thought. And you wouldn't change what you did. You'd keep going, right? And that's part of this idea. We want to recognize that thought, recognize the urge to try to get into that, and then slowly let go of it and redirect back to what you're trying to do during your day, right? Now, the other part about this is that you said you are on medication and you're not feeling anything with these thoughts. So what I'm hearing in this is that backdoor spike. And I know we've talked about this a lot on the podcast. And, every now and again, we need to have a reminder. A backdoor spike often happens, the idea behind it is that, people can use the anxiety about an obsession as reassurance that they're not going to do that thing, that they don't like this thing, they hate this thought, whatever it is. But then they sometimes will either get on medication or they'll start doing ERP and CBT, and they'll start working on it and getting to the point where they've habituated to it, or they've kind of gotten used to it and their brain isn't spitting out as much fear to it, right? So now they have the original thought and they don't have the emotional reaction to it. They don't get as activated. And then their brain goes, see? I knew you were the sort of person that would do this because the sort of person that would do that doesn't feel bad, scared, anxious, guilty. They feel nothing, right? Or they feel fine, or they feel good about it, or excited, or like, but whatever it is that you don't feel scared, so therefore you want this thing. That's the backdoor spike. It's not coming in through the front door, it's coming sneakily in through the back door, right? Okay. This is just another trick of OCD, all right? It's not meant to be taken as something brand new, something different. It is all the same stuff. It is just another ploy to sucker you back in, Rick. But you're not taking the bait, right? We're going to acknowledge that thought, say, you know what, I know this is a backdoor thought, a backdoor spike rather. And you know what? I'm not playing that game, OCD. I'm going to go and hang out with my daughter. Because sometimes, well, here's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what are your compulsions? Is it to get in your head? Is it to disconnect? Is it to play it safe? Is it to make sure to have somebody else there? Right? We're doing the opposite. If it is, I can't spend solo time with my daughter because, oh my gosh, what if I don't know myself? What if I can't trust who I am? Plan a day for you and your daughter. Go do something fun. Hang out just you two. Watch a movie at night. Watch a TV show, whatever it is. I'm going to Disneyland later today with my daughter. She's in the other room. We're going right after we record this, so I'm pretty excited. But we're going to go hang out. I want you to go hang out with your daughter, Rick. Okay? And if what are the other things, right? Is it I need to, I can't hug her. Hug your daughter. If it is, whatever it might be, do the opposite of it. Slow and steady. Pick one compulsion that you find yourself trying to do. Think about what's the opposite of this thing, and then try to get closer to your daughter, right? Whatever that might be. Now, if you're working with a therapist, run these by them, right? Talk to your therapist about what would be a good order of things, how to structure these. But these are, Rick, a lot of this is what I'm hearing from a lot of folks that I work with. A lot of fear, a lot of guilt, and a lot of shame. All this is OCD, and I'm hearing. So you got this, Rick, and I appreciate you sending this in because I think a lot of people who have POCD also share these types of obsessions. So the next question then is going to be from Emily. One moment. Okay. Oh, the downside about this mustache. I'm sure everyone's saying, what mustache? Well, if you see on the YouTube, I've got this thing. I'm trying to shape it, trying to make it a thing. We'll see. But it's big. It gets in the food, and it's not great. It gets in my coffee. Do I keep it? Do I not? I don't know. Weigh in. Send me a message. Tell me you love it or you hate it. All right. Emily's question. I went out clubbing with my boyfriend, his friends, and my female friend. I drank too much and have some memory gaps. Time traveling. It happens to a lot of people. The next day, I woke up with strong anxiety, which I always get after drinking. When my boyfriend mentioned that I talked to his colleague, I panicked, and I started worrying if I'd done something inappropriate, like kissing him. Even though both my boyfriend and my friend assured me that nothing happened, I can't let go of the thought. Now, I worry that I might have done something with a complete stranger. I get images in my head of being unfaithful and feel like I need to know the truth. I even tried to get the club to show surveillance footage and contacted the police, even though I know they won't help. I've had similar anxieties before after nights out, where I became convinced I'd cheated despite no evidence. I know I will never get a 100% answer, but it still feels impossible to let go without proof. I love my boyfriend, and I feel like I can't be happy with him until I know for sure. It's like on one side of me thinks this could be true. Why would I do that? But at the same time, the anxiety and this horrible feeling in my body won't go away. It's as if my mind is telling me, you did it, even though everyone says I didn't and have no memory of it. Is this too long? Best regards, Emily. All right, Emily, thank you so much. No, this was not too long. I will say Emily initially sent me a giant email with it was like 20 times the length of this, and she tightened it up, and this is so much better, so much clearer, and it gets the same message across. So anyways, Emily, thank you so much for sending that again. Okay, so Emily, so much of that is so relatable to so many people. I mean, number one, what we're talking about here is to a certain degree real event and also false memory, right? Real event and false memory obsessions for a lot of people go hand in hand. But, if ever I'm doing a presentation on real event obsessions, I'm going to talk about false memory obsessions. Real event obsessions, for those of you who are new to this, is a subtype of OCD. Again, all of it's just OCD. None of it's different. The POCD from Rick, contamination, and it's all OCD. This is just a subtype, a theme about something that has actually happened. And then the obsession is often, well, now what's going to happen to me? What's my life going to be like? Right, because of this? Or what if I get found out? What's the fallout, right? All right. This can happen with people who obsess about whether they cheated on a test back in college 50 years ago. It can be about stuff like this that you're sharing, Emilie, about going out, having too much to drink, forgetting some things or having some hazy memories, and then your brain jumps in with, well, you might have done this, right? False memory obsessions can be about what appears to be a false memory, as the name suggests, right? False memories are kind of easy to produce. And then the more that we think about something, the more it starts to feel like it was real, which stinks because what do a lot of people with OCD do? Ruminate, try to investigate, right? They try to go back in their memory, play every single event, every single thing that they can think of. Did I talk to this person? How did I talk to that person? What was my facial expression? What was their facial expression? Did I touch them? Let me see. Let me imagine holding their hand. Did it feel like that? Did I remember feeling this? Did I kiss them? All right, let me imagine that. So you're imagining all these stories and scenarios, and the more that you play them out, the more your brain can say, yeah, maybe that did happen. And that is where real event OCD, or false memory OCD can really kick in. Now, it can be a lot more complicated than that. It can be a lot more simple than that. Point is, Emilie, you've already kind of identified the theme. You've already kind of talked about that you've been through this before, right? You said, I had similar experiences before after nights out when I was convinced I'd cheated despite no evidence. So we've got a theme here. We've got a pattern, Emilie. With the pattern and the theme, we can acknowledge you've seen it before, you know this story before. This is just like all the other ones. And I'm willing to bet, Emilie, just like all the other ones, nothing factual has come out. No evidence has come out that said, oh yeah, you totally cheated on all those people all those times. You do this a lot, Emilie. Probably not. Probably nothing has happened. So therefore, what if we could apply this situation and put it in the same boat as those? What if they were the same? Meaning, what if, and okay, before I'll say this is OCD's trick. You already said, yeah, I didn't do anything in those. Well, of course not. And then OCD jumps in and says, yeah, but this time it's different. It's different in just a very subtle way, but it's different. And this one you're guilty. Yeah, well, no, it's just like all the other ones, and you have pattern of this, and you have OCD and all this stuff. But this one's different. I know you have no evidence, but you did it. This one is just like all the other ones. And because it's just like all the other ones, we're going to cut to the chase. We're going to trust the conclusion, trust the pattern. That you've seen this, it's uncomfortable. You have these intrusive thoughts and these intrusive images, but they don't deserve your attention, right? And we're going to put it off. Now, you can apply the maybe, maybe not, right? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't, right? I wonder if in this instance, an easier and more reliable thing based on who you are and kind of trusting your history with this is to actually treat yourself as innocent until proven guilty, okay? So we have this in the court system, theoretically. We have this in the court system where you're innocent until proven guilty, okay? Which means that proof needs to be brought. They need to bring evidence to the court to show that this person did this thing, right? They can't just say that person's guilty and then go, how do we know? Doesn't matter. Guilty. It's not how it works. We want to say, okay, this person did this crime. Now, here's the evidence to support this, right? And the evidence needs to be directly pointing, not just roundabout, like, Emilie has been outside, has talked to people sometimes, is attracted to the opposite sex, has kissed the opposite sex. Therefore, yeah, no, she totally cheated on her boyfriend, right? Not how that works. Now, how do we put this into practice? Is we let go of any effort to try to solve it. You've done quite enough. Now I get it. In those instances, if you're out there, if you're out drinking and you're out drinking a lot and you happen to forget some things, well, you could ask, "Hey, did I do anything weird last night?" I'm pretty sure within the category of weird, cheating on your boyfriend kind of fits within that, generally speaking. And if you ask someone who is there, who also can remember things, you go, "Hey, did I do anything weird last night?" They go, "No." Cool. We're treating the answer as the truth, right? Now, this is a one and done reassurance, but if we don't have information about something and we have questions about something that we haven't asked before, it's okay to ask that question. Just because you have OCD and just because you have rumination or reassurance seeking doesn't mean you're not allowed to ask questions. It's just tempering and considering how many questions, how often, and how much you're giving that question or that worry airtime in your brain, right? So you can ask the question, "Hey, did I do anything weird last night?" "No," they'll say. You go, "Okay." But then we know that anxiety, that thought is going to float and is going to show up and is going to nag you and suggest, now they don't know what they're talking about. They were too drunk and don't remember. I need to get this information or that information. And it's saying, I can't trust the information I received. Keep going at it. That is a problem. And that is where we start to not trust ourselves or not trust our senses or not trust other people around us. Instead, we're trusting anxiety and the absence of anxiety rather than information in other people and ourselves. And that's what we're not doing. We're trying to trust ourselves that we can hear information and go with it. All right? So I want you to catch yourself on when you feel the urge to ask more questions and remind yourself you've already gotten the information. Your friends, your boyfriend, other people who are there already said nothing happened. So treat it as if that's true and say, I'm going to treat myself as if I didn't do anything until information comes up. But here's the thing. You and I, Emilie, aren't going to do anything to try to get that information. We're going to wait for the universe, for God, for other people, for this other, I don't know, Mr. Is Mr. the opposite of mistress? I feel like it's got to be, right? Manstress? Anyways, the person who you cheated with, they come forward and say, "Emilie, oh my gosh, I had such a great time last night. We should totally do that again. You should dump your boyfriend. You should totally come and date me." Or whatever they say. I don't know what people say anymore. But we're going to wait. We're going to wait until that happens. And if that happens, then you do something about it. But until that happens, there ain't nothing to do, Emilie. There ain't nothing to do other than live your life. Go hang out. Go have fun. Maybe drink less, perhaps, and not because of any judgment, just because we know that, your story about going out drinking and then getting more anxiety the following day, super duper common. I've heard it said about alcohol is that alcohol is borrowing happiness from tomorrow, which I think can kind of be true. And it's again, I'm not against drinking. It's just that oftentimes folks with anxiety can have more anxiety the following day for any number of reasons. And if you kind of know that that's your pattern, you can maybe make a choice to do something different. Now, of course, you can acknowledge that, all right, I'm going to go out and have fun. I'm going to drink a bunch and go get crazy and know that I'm going to have more anxiety tomorrow and I might get this intrusive thought. And because I know this, I'm going to anticipate it and I'm not going to give it any airtime, right? This is not your first rodeo. You've been down this road before, right? So you can catch yourself in that process. So of course you can do some scripting to this, right? But I almost, in this instance, don't know how necessary that would really be for you to tolerate the thought that you've cheated, because I think right now you're in this acute phase of anxiety where you are constantly exposed to the fear, to the intrusive thought. Now is the time where we practice acceptance, and disengagement, and a disengagement from the obsession, disengagement from compulsion, and a re-engagement in good and happy things that you know you like to do, right? And that may be, hey, well, whatever that stuff is that you like to do. So, so Emilie, I'm sorry that you're having to go through this. I know this is a frustrating obsession, but you can anticipate it and know that that's going to be there while you disengage from those compulsions. Acknowledge that they're there. Acknowledge the feeling that's there. Remember with obsessions, and I think this may certainly apply here. I'm not trying to convince you that you did something, and I'm certainly not here to convince you that you didn't do something. We're in a state right now where we just simply don't know. Now, other people have given you good information. I think we can trust that. But what we're sitting with is the feeling of doubt, not the confirmation that you did something bad, but the feeling of uncertainty. Your job isn't to spend any amount of time in the content of the obsession, meaning about whether you cheated, whether you want to cheat, what will happen with cheating. None of it. That is OCD's trick. It's going to trick you into thinking the way out of this obsession and the way to clarity and peace is by obsessing more or by getting the answer to the content. You've already answered it, and there's no answering it. We all know the more you consider, the more you question, the more you ruminate, the fewer questions or the fewer answers you have, and the more questions you have, right? So instead, it's about how do you make space more and better and stronger to the feeling of discomfort? How do you make space for it and know that that anxiety is going to rise up and get really uncomfortable and it's eventually going to crest and is eventually going to go away? That's our job. Sitting with that feeling, knowing it's there, it's saying, it feels uncomfortable. Taking deep breaths to it, identifying where you feel it in your body, accepting that feeling and accepting those thoughts, not as facts, but as present, as there, as part of your day, while you take it with you into your day, into the choice, into the thing that you choose to do, your choices during the day, right? Going out and gardening, going to a movie, going to work or school. And that feeling is going to be there. But remember, it's not the content, it's the feeling of doubt, okay? OCD isn't really a thought problem, it's a feeling problem. We're not trying to think our way out of that box, we're trying to feel our way through it. And it's going to be there, it's going to rise and fall, and it's going to go away. Like all the other ones, Emilie, like all the other ones you went through. All right. Okay, you've heard me yammer on enough. Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Emilie. And thank you, everyone else, for listening and or watching on YouTube. It means a ton to me that you would let me be part of your recovery process. And if you have questions for a future episode, send them in. I want to hear them. I want to present them. I want to talk about them. And I want to see how I can help you move down the line towards progress and process of progress. You all know what I'm saying. All right, y'all, until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously. Bye. Thank you for listening to the Fearcast. If you would like your question answered on a future episode, please click on the Submit a Question link at fearcastpodcast.com. If you would like your question answered sooner, please send me a recording of your question to questions@fearcastpodcast.com or by sending me an audio message through Instagram by DMing me at fearcastpodcast on Instagram. If you like the Fearcast, please write a review on your podcast platform of choice. Please remember that the Fearcast is not a substitute for psychotherapy. If you need a little bit of help in your recovery, please go over to fearcastpodcast.com and click on the Find Help link, and there's going to be some information for you there. So until next time, take a risk, challenge yourself, and don't take your brain too seriously.